Istanbul is a city of stones and stories, where every alley and minaret seems to whisper a legend. These are the most enduring city tales that shape how locals imagine their past, each one folding history, longing, and the uncanny into everyday life. The Maiden's Tower and the Princess. Perched like a lone sentinel on a tiny islet in the Bosphorus, the Kız Kulesi looks at once fragile and defiant against the current and the sky. The best-known legend begins with an oracle who predicts that a sultan's beloved daughter will die from a snakebite. In terror and love, the father seals her in a tower far from land, surrounded by water and guarded day and night. For a time, the tower is a gilded prison. Attendants bring books, music, and silk, and the princess grows wise and melancholy in equal measure, learning the language of the sea. Then comes a final cruel irony. A fruit basket, arriving from the mainland as a token of affection, hides within it a tiny snake that slips from leaves into a palm. The princess dies in spite of the father's precautions, and the tower becomes a mournful emblem of fate and the limits of power. Variants of the tale emphasize different moral notes. Some tell of lovers who meet under the tower's shadow. Others suggest the girl dies, but her spirit protects ships. The tower's isolation on the water, its changing skin of light at sunrise and dusk, and its lonely silhouette against stormy skies keep the story alive. A melancholy parable about love, prophecy, and the ways human attempts to control destiny can be outwitted by fate. Hezarfen Ahmet Çelebi. Human flight across the Bosphorus. Evliya Çelebi's richly embroidered 17th century account gives us Hezarfen, the archetypal daring inventor who straps artificial wings to his arms and launches from the high roofs of Galata. According to the story, Hezarfen took advantage of strong winds, spread his wings, and soared across the Bosphorus to land in Üsküdar, a spectacle that stunned Ottoman onlookers and even inspired gratitude from Sultan Murad IV. The reward, however, became a bitter twist. The Sultan, fearful that such an invention might unsettle rulers and rivals, rewarded Hezarfen materially but exiled him, valuing secrecy over the spread of knowledge. The tale captures Istanbul's fascination with daring and technology, and though historians debate the literal truth of the flight, the story persists because it bridges wonder and the uneasy relationship between inventive genius and political control. In retellings, the imagery is vivid, gliding silhouettes against a copper sunset, wind whipping through loose robes, the Bosphorus sparkling like a vein of light beneath a bold, improbable flight. The fisherman and the Byzantium filigree, in a tale set in the shoals and backwaters of the Golden Horn. A poor fisherman hauls in a net heavy with more than fish, a small Byzantine cross or an intricately worked coin surfaces, threaded with crust and seaweed. The object is a breadcrumb, leading him not to a simple fortune, but to a hidden cave or forgotten cistern where relics and remnants from Constantinople's earlier days sleep beneath the city's foundations. Sometimes the cave is a moral test. Greed can drive men mad, while generosity, sharing the found riches with neighbors, restoring a shrine, or giving alms, redeems them. Other times, the treasure is a key to memory. It reconnects contemporary Istanbulites with a vanished Christian past, reminding listeners that beneath their feet lies a palimpsest of civilizations. The story endures because it dramatizes the city's layered history and the idea that ordinary people, by chance or providence, can touch the long sweep of the past. Theodosian Walls and the Weeping Stones. On stormy nights, old storytellers say the stones of the Theodosian Walls, that immense ragged spine built to guard Constantinople, seem to weep. Passers-by hear, or imagine they hear, faint murmurs or a drip that sounds like tears when wind and rain press against the ancient masonry. In some versions, the walls whisper the names of those who died in siege. In others, they hum old imperial songs. The weeping walls personify a living city memory. Stone not as inert matter, but as witness and mourner. The tale speaks to the way physical monuments absorb trauma and history, becoming repositories of communal sorrow and resilience. It is a way for residents to feel continuity with the past, to believe that the city itself remembers and grieves its losses, that the very walls are sentient custodians of the past. The Seven Sleepers of Ephesus, Istanbul's local echoes. Though the canonical legend of the Seven Sleepers belongs to Ephesus, motifs migrate easily. Istanbul's folklore borrows these images. bands of warriors, holy men, or saints sleeping beneath hill or mosque, preserved for a time of dire need. One local version tells of a group beneath the rounded earth near a forgotten fountain, watches set to awaken when the city faces its final peril. Another casts them beneath a mosque's foundations, their breathing faintly audible as the muezzin calls. These stories are not literal predictions but symbolic assurances. The city is not powerless. Protection, literal or spiritual, slumbers, ready to stir. Such motifs reflect hope for protection and future salvation woven into the urban sacred geography, a comforting musing on endurance and eventual deliverance. The Sultan's hidden treasury at Topkapı. Topkapı Palace radiates power and secrecy, which is why stories about secret vaults and hidden doors beneath its foundation circulate easily. Some tales suggest vaults filled with gold and treasure maps. Others hint at manuscripts holding forbidden knowledge, treatises on statecraft or diplomatic missives that could shatter reputations. Rumors about descendants of palace eunuchs guarding concealed passages persist. The legend does more than tantalize prospectors. It expresses anxieties and curiosities about imperial power, what was kept from the public, what secrets shaped policy, and what knowledge might topple thrones if revealed. The palace, in legend, becomes an embodiment of opaque authority and the magnetic pull of secrets. The Maiden of the Bridge, Galata, and Süleymaniye. Bridges in Istanbul are thresholds, at once crossing points and places of encounter. They separate and connect, carrying fishers, lovers, and traders. Urban legend transforms them into liminal spaces of fate. One recurring tale tells of a young woman, broken by forbidden love, who throws herself from a bridge into the dark gulf below. Afterwards, fishermen and late wanderers claim to see her shadow, or a pale figure leaning over the railing, or sudden chills near the span at dusk. The story gives bridges an emotional charge. They are where hearts are tested, where the city's currents carry secrets, and where the border between life and loss feels thin. It also speaks to the social pressures of honor, family, and desire that make such tragedies imaginable and potent as moral lessons. The hidden churches and the night walkers. Istanbul's older quarters still carry memory of communities who once lived there in different faiths and tongues. Folklore preserves these memories in the figure of night walkers, monks, merchants, or refugees from earlier centuries who return at dusk to guide the lost or to mislead those who wander off the safe path. In narrow lanes where varnished signs and modern cafes coexist with unmarked doorways, these tales are comfort and warning. A lost traveler might follow a cloaked figure and find a doorway leading to a safe courtyard. Another might be led into a labyrinth and only escape by morning. The stories preserve a sense of the city as palimpsest. Past inhabitants walk with present ones, sometimes kindly, sometimes inscrutable. They are ways of remembering populations displaced by politics or time, and they keep alive the sense that the city's human landscape is never fully gone. The cat of Hagia Sophia. Istanbul's famed affection for cats takes on a mythic bend in the story of a single devoted feline who saved Hagia Sophia from ruin. In the tale, the cat, by chasing mice from wooden beams, alerting caretakers to structural danger, or simply refusing to leave the prayer hall until repairs are made, preserves the building's integrity or spirit. Whether literal or fanciful, the myth resonates because it mirrors an actual culture of tolerance and tenderness toward strays in the city. Cats become more than animals. They are witnesses, guardians, and companions of urban life. The story of the cat who saved a basilica frames small creatures as custodians of continuity, binding the civic and the domestic. The Bosphorus Maiden, sea spirits and ships. Fishermen and sailors tell of a female spirit of the Bosphorus who blesses or curses voyages. She appears as a light curling on the waves or a woman in white perched on a rock, and offerings or small acts of respect to the sea. Pouring the first cup of tea on deck, singing a short prayer, throwing bread to the water are said to secure her favor. When storms rage and nets are torn by unseen hands, the maiden is blamed. When journeys are smooth, she is thanked. The legend embodies the Bosphorus not as a mere geographic strait, but as a living volitional presence, helpful, inscrutable, and deserving of respect. It encodes the pragmatic seafaring etiquette and the psychological need to personify risk and mercy in a fickle environment. These legends are not literal history. They are the stories Istanbul tells itself to hold memory, explain mysteries, and keep wonder alive. They stitch together a city of many times. Byzantine columns reused in Ottoman houses, Byzantine mosaics glimpsed beneath plaster, and minarets rising above Byzantine battlements. They give edges to moral imagination, comfort for anxieties, and drama to ordinary streets. Walk the city with these stories in mind and you will see alleys and domes differently. Not as neutral backdrops, but as active participants in an ongoing conversation between past and present.